So today we're going to do a homemade granola. This is a recipe I came across years ago. Just a basic granola recipe, very adjustable, just depends on what you like, what your tastes are. The original recipe called for like puffed grains. Those are kind of pricey, and since I have a lot of different types of cereal usually on hand, it's just easier for me to use the cereal. It may not be as healthy, but it is pretty frugal, easy way to do it. So to start with, we are just, usually I do 3 cups of any type of cereal. And again, you could do puffed grains, you could do quinoa, you can do, just, they even suggest in the original, I guess if you wanted it savory, to do broken chips and crackers and things like pretzels and stuff. Because we use this granola in our yogurt in the mornings, I usually like it a little on the sweet side. So to start with, I like about a cup of just frosted mini wheats, and I like to take a potato masher and mash those up. They just come out nicer in the, because then it makes just a nice sweet shredded wheat in the overall granola. So I'm just gonna do that real fast. Sorry, I know it's noisy and crunchy. And basically just a bunch of crushed up, unrecognizable. Like I said, I just use whatever I have on hand, but because frosted mini wheats is one of our favorites, I always have that, and it makes a really good start to this combination. So that's what it looks like. And then let's see, I'm going to had some rice checks left over from a Christmas project, so we're just going to do a cup of that and roundabout. Because I don't like that whole in the granola, I'll just kind of lightly crush it. It doesn't have to be completely crushed the way the frosted mini wheats are, but it just cooks nicer if it's broken up a little bit. Let's do that. And then the last thing I like are multi-grain Cheerios. So try to stay a little healthy. Like I said, use what you have, use what you like to make it your own. So to that, I'm then going to add 3 cups of rolled oats. You don't want to use instant oats, you want to use rolled oats. So 3 cups of that. And that's it for the cereals and grains. Next thing you want to do is just go ahead and add about a half to 1 teaspoon of salt. I'm going to actually measure this today, which I don't always do, but I'll go more of about a half or so of salt. Again, I like to use the Redmond sea salt. It's all natural, comes from a mine in Utah, and it's very good. Has lots of minerals and good stuff in it for you. So I just kind of mix that up a little bit. Okay. Next is going to be what they call the sweet and sticky. Actually, I say that. Let's do the oils first. So you can use any kind of oil that you like. Personally, I like a little bit of coconut oil, and what you want to do is half a cup, which I do not have my half cup measurement, so just a moment.
A few moments later.
Okay, so we've got all of our grains. I did remember that I needed to add the nuts next. So about a half a cup, I went ahead and had ground these up earlier with the little grinder. I like a combination, again, to your taste. This is cashews, walnuts, and almonds, just chopped up, about a cup or so, and just add it in. I forgot that step when I went to get the measurement cup that I forgot. All right, you just throw that together. Okay, so we're gonna go with, you want a half a cup of oil, any kind of oil that you want. I wouldn't recommend butter, so, and you want it depending on whether you want savory or sweet. You want to kind of keep that in mind. I like a little bit of coconut oil, or about a half, of the half cup with coconut oil. And then the rest, what I'll do is just pour in some, we use a light tasting olive oil, and pour that in to the mix, to the cup, until it's full. So, put that over the bowl here in case I make a mess. But it kind of just fills in the gaps, and you want a half a cup of oil mix. So put that in there. We're going to microwave this in a minute to get the coconut oil melted, but because I have other things I'm going to mix in here, we'll go ahead and mix those other things in here as well. If you do the oil first, it makes it a little bit easier too with the measuring cup for the other stuff to come out. This next is sweet and sticky. So I generally use a bit of honey and brown sugar, just so I'm not using a whole half cup of honey. Try to do things a little on the frugal side. You can do maple syrup, you can do, I wouldn't do all brown sugar because you do want a little bit of stickiness. Luckily the brown sugar is sticky enough, and combined with honey, it makes a nice sticky substance that's going to hold this stuff together and coat it. So again, I just put the brown sugar in here first, and then pour the honey, and the honey kind of fills it up to half a cup. And you don't have to worry about stirring up any of it until you pop it in the microwave. I'm going to try about 30 seconds. I'll let you know. I think that's usually about how long it takes, because you're mainly just wanting that coconut oil to melt. The other thing I like to add is a little bit of flavoring. Now you can add any kind of flavoring, again, savory or sweet, or just what we do is I like to add some protein. So I'm using just a peanut butter protein powder, and I'm going to do 3 tablespoons of that, and then also mix in, and I'll do it right before I put this in the microwave, 3 tablespoons of peanut butter protein powder and 4 tablespoons of water. I usually use a warm water for that, just so that my coconut oil doesn't try to re-solidify. So this just gives it a nice subtle flavor. Gives it a little added protein for our health. So it's just something I like to add to that. Okay, so we're going to go off camera for a second so that I can microwave this and add the 4 tablespoons of water. And that's just to go with the protein powder. If you're not doing a protein powder, you don't want to just add water, and you don't ever want to add too much water to this, because, I'm just, sorry, I'm blanking on whether that's 4 tablespoons to 3 tablespoons. Yes, did I did 3 tablespoons, okay. 4 tablespoons of powder, 3 tablespoons of hot water. Sorry. Because I don't always look at my recipe, sometimes I have to stop and think. My apologies. Okay, what I was saying is you don't want a whole lot of water to it, because then it can make your granola a little on the soggy side. So that's why you do the oil and the sticky, this sweet sticky stuff. Okay, so that ended up being about 50 seconds, and The coconut oil is not completely melted, but it's melted enough when I start stirring this up. So we're just going to stir everything in. I use this tiny whisk. You can use a bigger whisk. In my next step, I'll show you why I just use the tiny whisk, because we have to froth an egg. I did while I was trying to get some stuff out of the way, and while I was microwaving, I did go ahead and preheat the oven to 300, which I should have done earlier, but I baked bread this afternoon, so the oven's probably still a little on the warm side, so it shouldn't take long to heat that up. So you just want to mix that in good, basically so you don't have any clumps like that powder, that protein powder. It's a little clumpy. And this isn't going to stir in completely. Oil and water don't mix, you know, that sort of thing. But you just want to kind of mix it up a little bit. So it looks like that. And then I'm just going to pour this into our granola mix. So just kind of pour it around. And then we'll start. I know the original recipe said, this is where you can use your hands. And I'm like, I am not sticking my hands in this mess. I would end up with so much on my hands. It would be awful. So a couple of spatulas come in handy. And basically you're just going to take and mix it in. You want everything nicely coated with that mix so that you don't have a dry looking granola anymore. So it doesn't take very long. You just want to get it mixed up so everything's well coated. This is going to give us a nice lightly browned granola mix. That's pretty good. Next step is the egg. You only want to use an egg white. So, bowl. I use the same bowl. So what I'm trying to do is get the egg white in the bowl, and the egg yolk will go somewhere else for the dog. The dog loves raw egg yolks, and normally when I'm making granola, he knows I'm making granola. And he will be in here watching me, waiting for his egg yolk, because he knows he's going to get the egg yolk after I get this done. Okay. That's good. As much of that nice, lovely egg white out as we can. And we'll just set that aside for the dog in a little bit. Now these are fresh chicken eggs, and sometimes I get a little blob of something in there that I don't want, so I'm just fishing that out right quick. Sorry. And this is where this little whisk comes in handy, because you want to froth that egg white as much as possible. You just want it a little frothy, so. I'm still seeing that spot. Since eggs are so difficult sometimes. Okay. Alright. So it doesn't have to be like completely frothed. You just want it a little bubbly. Then that is just going to go, again, just drizzle it over the mix. As much out of the bowl as you can. And again, you're just going to stir it around. I think this helps brown give a nice browning to the granola as well. I don't remember if I said before, quinoa is really good as one of the grains. If you want to use, I have used just raw quinoa because it gets baked instead of one of the cups of cereal. It gives you even more protein, and it's tasty and good in this. And I've used different types of cereal and stuff because It's just whatever we have available that I want to use. And crush some, and you don't have to crush it all. So, next step is just going to be to pour all of this in a pan. Definitely want aluminum foil in your pan. It's a good idea because it is a little on the sticky side. Trying to get all this off without using my fingers, but that's not going to work. So, if you wanted to make like granola bars, you could probably do this just like this and just press it into the pan. I like a nice loose mixture. We don't even like big heavy thick clusters or anything of granola, so we keep it on the light side, and I'm just going to spread it evenly in the pan, and I'm not going to pack it into the pan. But you could totally do, I think, probably granola bars, or if you like big clusters, you can press it into the pan. Another thing on this granola, if you wanted to add, say, coconut or dried fruit or even cocoa powder or anything like that, fruit especially, you're going to want to do after you bake it. So you want to bake it first, and then you would add the dried fruit or chocolate chips or something like that, M&Ms. You know, if you were making this, you know, for a sweet treat, like a trail mix type thing, you would want to add that after you do the baking. So basically we're going to bake it. I start off the 300 degrees. I'm going to go 20 minutes, and then I'm going to take it out, and I'm going to stir it as carefully as I can without making a big fat mess. Kind of just flip it around a little bit so that everything gets good and toasty, and then it goes in for another 20 minutes before it's done. So and I put this in the oven for 20 minutes, and I'll show you what I mean about flipping it around in 20 minutes. Okay, thank you. Okay, so it's been 20 minutes. See, it's nice and brown on top, and we're just going to stir that up. Of course, it's still very soft. I like to break up any clumps, and this I try to avoid doing what I just did, and that's make a mess and throw it all over the counter. But you just want to take the same 2 spatulas, and you just want to get in there and get everything good and stirred up so that the fat that's at the bottom has time to get on the top and brown. And so we're just going to get that smooth back out. I like to, like I said, break up any clusters that are trying to form. Just makes it easier to eat. And we're going to pop it back in the oven for another 20 minutes, and then we'll look at the finished product. Alright, got it out of the oven. It's cooked for a total of 40 minutes now. See, it's nice and brown on top, but not too overly done. 300 degrees seems to do just perfect. I'm going to stir it up good, break up any clumps. You can leave the clumps in if you like the clumps. If you like them clustered, you're welcome to leave them in. This is, once it cools off, if you wanted to add, like I said, dried fruit. I've, in the past, have done coconut flakes, sometimes unsweetened, sometimes regular. You could add chocolate chips, dried fruit, anything you want. Like I said, the great thing about this is that it's customizable. So you make it your own, whatever you want to put in it, however you want it to taste. It's fairly easy, fairly, what I would say, frugal way of doing granola. So we're just gonna, like I said, I'm just stirring it up a little bit again. I will put it on a cooling rack for a while and probably come back in another 15 minutes or so. Give it another little stir just because I don't want any clumps in it. I like to make sure it stays loose and just to allow it to cool down. And after that, we'll be ready to enjoy it in the morning. Next up, dog bone treats for your dog.